Okay. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the 16th Hebridean Housing Partnership Annual General Meeting. In the absence of our Chair, Ian McMillan, and me, Callum McKay, and Vice Chair, are going to take this AGM today. I don't know, I think Ian might be streaming in later on. First of all, there's apologies, and I think there's a list at the back of apologies if anybody's interested in who's apologised. And I kind of go straight on to the approval of the minutes of the meeting of the AGM in 2021, which was held remotely on Thursday, the 26th of August. Can I ask for approval of that minute? Thanks, Roddy. Do we need a seconder? Yeah. There's no matters arising from that? No. Thank you very much. Now it's just a wee bit of presentation that prepared by Ian, and I will read it out as it's on the pages. He said, I'm pleased to present the annual report for the financial year 2021-22. The last year has seen some return to normality as COVID restrictions have been relaxed. Despite this, 2021 and 22 saw new challenges in the rising cost of living, the war in Ukraine, and the continuing pressures on supply chains and the labour market due to COVID and Brexit. In the last year, we completed 64 new houses available for social rent and 14 for shared equity homes. 4.28 million was also invested in tenants' homes, delivering the following improvements during 21-22. 227 heating systems, 109 new kitchens, 15 bathrooms, 59 homes received new windows, and 122 tenants benefited from aids and adaptations, which is excellent given the circumstances. Alleviating fuel poverty continues to be our key priority, and this is demonstrated by the installation of 205 air source heat pumps in off-gas areas. These delivered a more controllable and affordable heating solution for our tenants. This has been possible through the Scottish Government Low Carbon Infrastructure Transition Programme. At the 31st of March 2022, there were 96 houses under construction across 5 sites, with a further 85 either due to start or in the tendering stage. Finally, I would like to thank my fellow board members and our staff for all their endeavours during 2021-22, and acknowledge the support of our key partners and Scottish Government and the Core Island Share. Thank you very much. That's from me, a message from our Chair, Ian McMillan. So moving straight on, the agenda is Chief Executive Report, and I'll ask the Chief Executive, Dean MacLeod, to come and speak to the board. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Can you all hear me okay? Okay, good. Well, I think when we were going through lockdown, we all had this sense of hope that we were going to get to the end of it and that things were going to get back to some level of normality. And I don't think any of us expected to be facing what is looking like an even more challenging set of circumstances. And the one thing that we want to hang on to is that sense of hope that things will get better at some point. And just like lockdown, what's happening now, it's affecting the majority of people. There's nobody, well, there maybe are some people who feel they're untouched by it, but the majority of people are being affected by what's happening. And it's not just in our country either. And David Kelly, who is the Director of Poverty Alliance, said that 60% of working-aged adults are going to be in poverty in Scotland. And that's an alarming number. And that 65% of children who are living in poverty are living in a home where people are actually working. And that's a situation that we're acutely aware of. It seems like all the systems in the world that used to work well before are broken, and it would be easy to get despondent and to get gloomy about everything that's happening. And when we get into that situation, it's much harder to do something to get us out of it. It's good to see a little glimmer of light. And somebody sent me an email the other day, and they had outlined all the issues to do with cost of living crisis, But there was a couple of little nuggets at the end of the email that just gave you that sense of hope that things will get better. It might take 12 to 18 months, but there was a sense of hope that things are going to get better. We're acutely aware of the challenges that face our islands out with the cost of living crisis. They're regularly raised in the number of public bodies, our population, the demographics of our population, our transport infrastructure, climate change, and there's not a lot that we can actually do on our own, but there's a lot we can do together. And I don't just mean people in the Outer Hebrides, I mean the people in our country. So that's the challenges that we're facing. And you might say, well, what on earth can HHP do in the face of these big challenges? There are small things that the board can do that can make a difference. And I know that the heart of the board is not to add a burden onto our tenants. So they're going to be looking over the next couple of months, along with ourselves, to see what we can do about making sure that the rates do not go up by an extortionate amount. The impact of that, as you know, is if the money that we get to do our works comes from rates. So if it's set there and we had planned to do works there, and we're saying, gosh, the cost of doing the works has gone up like that, there's a gap to be filled. And the only place we can get that gap is from our rates. So if we're saying we don't really want to put them up by too much, then it means we have to pull back the work that we plan to do. That's what we're all doing in our own personal lives. So we're not saying we're not going to do work, but we might take longer to phase it into different years to get it done in order to be able to keep the rate increase as low as possible. And that's the challenge that the board are going to be working on over the next couple of months, and we'll be consulting with tenants to get their view as well. A couple of other things that we're going to be working on. We have a new tenants portal coming, hopefully by March 23, which will allow tenants and people who are wanting to go onto the waiting list to do that online. So rather than having to fill out paper copies, you can go and do that online. You can report repairs, you can make payments. So it'll be quite a shift in what we're currently offering. On a more mundane note, we are going to be changing the rules of the organisation to allow us to have just a bit more scope with filling vacancies. Because the governance of the board and the organisation is really important. You want to know that the people who are governing the organisation are skilled and that they can be trusted, and we don't want to have gaps. So we've got our SGM on the 15th of September, and hopefully we'll get the rules changed then that will allow us to, like I say, to fill the vacancies a wee bit easier. We're going to continue with new build. We've got homes completing in Barra and in Gotil, and hopefully in Lochmaddy as well. And we'll continue to work with communities to identify areas where we can build homes. So that's what we're hoping to do. And one thing I do want to say, we've got a first this year. We've got Caris, our new housing warden apprentice, and it's great that she came through as a business admin warden apprentice, and Jonathan, who's with us, he came through as business admin, so it's really good. And she lowers the average age of the organisation, which is great. So Caris has just started as a housing warden apprentice, and hopefully, if that works well, we'll be able to offer that to more of our young people. So I'm going to hand back now to the chair.
Thanks, Dina. I'll reach the mic first. Thanks, Dina. That's very good and positive report. I did note that you didn't mention the average age of the groups, which is quite polite, I suppose. Moving on to the agenda now, it's a presentation of the annual report and a financial statement to the 31st of March 2022, and I want to ask Director of Finance, Donald McLeod, to come up to the mic. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I suppose I should open just by saying it is good to be all together again in person. I think I have the opposite problem to Dina, though. Am I talking too loud? If so, please tell me and I'll try and turn down the volume. So in terms of the annual financial statements, anybody who wishes to get a copy of the annual financial statements can do so. They're available online, and they're available online on our website at www.hebrideanhousing.co.uk/annual reports. In terms of this year, or last year, sorry, 21-22, we had 2,310 units of stock at the end of March. As of last month, we had 157 units on site. So that is a very good thing to be doing in terms of the number of houses that are getting on site, and we anticipate the vast majority of these to be available in the next 12 to 24 months. In terms of the last fiscal year, we had 64 homes completed. And you can see there that those homes are spread from the Butt to Barra, and a significant sum was spent in delivering those new build homes. And you can see there some pictures of our most recent developments. So 14.85 million was spent on development over the last year, and the vast majority of that actually came from private finance. So we're very fortunate the support that we do get from the Scottish Government and from the Council with regards to grant subsidies. But when a project approaches its final stage, all of that construction cost is funded from HHP's private finance, which is either driven from rents or from borrowings. 4.28 million. So it's not just development that we are doing, we're continuing to invest in our existing stock. 4.28 million was what we spent in 21-22 on investment, a significant increase on 2021 as we recovered from COVID. Understandably, a number of tenants were anxious about getting works done in homes at a point of national pandemic, and we're still looking to deliver on some of the works that were planned in 2020-21 and 21-22, and we hope to have that completed by March 23. As the Chair outlined, these are some of the things that we were able to deliver in terms of investment in our homes, and I think that the top on there is something that we do need to highlight. A significant sum spent on heating. That sum has allowed tenants to move from historical total heating, total control systems to systems that are going to make it more affordable for them going through the challenges that we're going to have over the next short to medium term. Not making any light of it, it's still going to be, we still face significant challenges when it comes to energy costs. But that value that we have, that number of heating replacements that we've done, we could not have done that without the help of the Low Carbon Infrastructure Transition Programme, where we were able to pull in funding of approximately 680,000 last year. And we've also been successful in 22-23 in attracting another 750,000 on heating programmes. So we continue to invest in heating programmes that will help our tenants improve the way they heat their homes and benefit and result in a cost benefit from the previous heating that was installed. We've also been successful in the last few months in getting external wall insulation awarded to us again through the Low Carbon Infrastructure Fund, and that's going to deliver approximately £700,000 worth of external wall insulation. So coupled with investment in heating systems, we anticipate improving the quality of a number of homes that currently don't have that external wall insulation. In terms of the financial statements, I will present these to you. Just a reminder to anybody who is who is new to the AGM, that the key documents that I'm going to focus on are the Statement of Comprehensive Income, and that's just an annual statement of all income and expenses, and then the Statement of Financial Positions, which looks at our assets and our liabilities. A copy of our cash flow statement is available in the financial statements for anybody who does want to have a look at that. So in terms of our Statement of Comprehensive Income, the thing to note here is that if you look at our operating surplus has improved by approximately 300,000 year on year. The main reason that that's improved is 2020-21 included a significant smoke detector programme where there was new fire regulations post-Grenfell that required enhanced smoke detector technology in homes. That was completed, and that's something that hasn't been required to be done in 2021-22, and it's a benefit, therefore, to our operating surplus. The only other thing to note here is, for those that can see these numbers, our interest charges are going up. So as an organisation, Dina was right to say that our tenants' rents is what drives the business. But when we're going through capital programmes, we need a source of funding in order to deliver the significant levels of expenditure that we have at the early stages of that project. And you can see there that our interest rates have gone up 70,000 year on year. That's driven by two factors. One, the increasing rate of interest from the Bank of England and the impact that has on the interest that we pay our funder. But secondly, we have increased our borrowing since last year. And that's entirely consistent with the business plan and our funding strategies. Moving on to turnover and operating costs. So the graph on the left-hand side represents turnover, and the graph on the right-hand side represents our operating costs. So you can see there our rental income is up almost 400,000 year on year. That's driven by primarily an increase in the number of units that we have on our books. So we've increased the stock by 64 units, and we've managed to take in income for these 64 units over the year. And 22-23 we're forecast to go over the £10 million turnover barrier. So the rents that we will take in will exceed 10 million over the next fiscal year. Grants have gone up almost 200,000 year on year. That's predominantly our RHI income, where we've been able to secure the LCITP funding has allowed us to secure additional investment in heating systems prior to the RHI scheme coming to an end, and that's allowed us to take in significant sums of RHI income as a result. And we continue to sell shared equity properties. I think there were 14 shared equity properties that we sold during the last year, and that's an increase of 320,000 year on year. Looking at operating costs, I think the main thing I just want to highlight there is in terms of management costs. Our management costs have increased, but not significantly, and that's mainly due to the fact that we've been conducting a development programme and investment programme that's been running and catching up with works that were deferred from COVID, and we get an internal fee from that is allowing us to actually reduce our management fee income as a result. In general, management costs as well as other costs are on the climb. Energy costs having a big impact on that, and the associated impact on insurance as well. In terms of planned maintenance, I've already highlighted. You can see there that from a year-on-year perspective, we have a £340,000 reduction in planned maintenance. That's almost entirely driven by the smoke detector programme that we had in 2020-21, which increased our costs. Repairs costs, so reactive maintenance, you can see there are increasing. So not a surprise to anybody, material prices are increasing, labour costs are increasing, We can't turn on the news without seeing something with regards to the cost of whether it's a 750 gram bit of lure pack costing £7 now. The cost increases are significant and across the board. In terms of our statement of financial position, the highlights. So our housing stock has increased by 15.5 million. And we've got 20.2 million houses under construction at the moment, or in work in progress at the end of March. That's a significant sum, and that's a significant sum that, in the main, is invested in the local supply chain, and that is a very good thing for our islands. In terms of negatives, our arrears are starting to climb. So we've gone from a position where our arrears historically have reduced. We're now starting to see them climb again, and that's something that we do need to tackle. And the main area of increase is rechargeable repairs, where we've had almost a £50,000 increase in rechargeable repairs year on year. Our statement of financial position is broken into two parts, our assets and our liabilities. So this is our liabilities greater than 1 year. And the highlights first. So I've already mentioned our new borrowing facility. I think I mentioned it at last year's AGM. We have renegotiated our borrowing facility with the bank, and that's allowed us to bring in an additional £10 million of potential funding, and that will allow us to work in collaboration with the Core to deliver the Strategic Housing Investment Programme. In terms of our capital grants, so I've mentioned we have significant support from Scottish Government, and you can see that in the fact that we've had an increase in our deferred capital grants year on year. And finally, our pension liability. Our pension liability has reduced year on year. The vast majority of that reduction is driven by the assumptions that are used by the actuaries in calculating what that liability is. But I think when I come on to my next point, it's one to watch. Markets are volatile. The economic environment is probably the most dynamic it's ever been, certainly in the last 40 years. And that is something that will have an impact on our pension fund and the return that we will have on that pension fund. So it's something that we will continue to monitor carefully. In terms of the negatives, I've already mentioned our interest rates. So our interest rates, we're very fortunate in the fact that we restructured our borrowing facility last year. We have managed to hedge 85% of our borrowing. That means that we fixed that borrowing at a fixed rate of interest, which is significantly below what the market would offer today. So we've protected ourselves in that regard. We do have some element of floating or variable rate debt, and that is something that is subject to market volatility, and therefore why I'm highlighting that there. In terms of inflation, the forecasts on inflation are worrying, and they're stark. And the impact that has is the Bank of England, one of their main mechanisms to manage inflation is to adjust the base rate of interest. So that's something that, as Dina mentioned, is something that we need to consider and the board need to consider when we come to setting rents, but not just in setting rents, in setting what we propose to do in terms of investment programmes and development programmes, because we are going to have a rocky couple of years in that regard. But as you can see there, income and expenditure reserve, we have accumulated a significant surplus. Maybe just for anybody who wants to know more about that, that is not a provision. It is not funds that we can go and readily invest into people's homes. That is an accumulation of surpluses that HHP have generated since inception. And if we were to look at crystallising some of that out borrowing, we would need to have funding in place in order to free up those reserves to deliver in other areas, which at the moment it's a very rocky environment when it comes to interest costs. So that's our statement of financial position, and I'm now going to hand over to Callum MacDonald, who's from CIB Services, who's our auditor, and over to you, Callum.
Thank you, Donald. Good afternoon, everyone. The next bit is not particularly exciting. I'll give you a warning in advance. We are engaged as the independent auditors of HHP, and our remit is really, as it says, to undertake the annual audit. Our report is sitting within the full financial statements that Donald has said are available online. It's an increasingly lengthy audit report, now stretches to 6 pages, so we'll take the liberty of talking to the slide that's on your screen in front of you, which is a summary of the key paragraph in that audit report. What that audit report says is that, in our opinion, the financial statements give a true and fair view of the state of the partnership's affairs at 31st March 2022 and of its income and expenditure for the year then ended. They've been properly prepared in accordance with the relevant accounting practices and the relevant legislation. So, in short, it is a clean audit report, and we didn't find any issues to report within the work we did. So all in all, very positive, and I'll sign off on that note.
Thanks, Callum. Thank you, Donald, for a comprehensive report on the finances. A lot of figures bandied about there, but they are important. They're important to HHP to have this finance, or we wouldn't have an HHP. It's important to every organisation, indeed. So we have, I'm going to get my glasses now, 2 resolutions, I think, in front of you today. And the first one is appointment of auditors. And I think notice is hereby given a resolution to be laid before the 16th annual general meeting of Hebridean Housing Partnership Limited on Thursday the 1st of September at CIB Services 63 Kenneth Street, Stornoway, Lewis, be appointed as external auditors to the Hebridean Housing Partnership to hold office until the end of the next general meeting when the accounts are laid before members. Have we got approval of that? Yeah. Thank you for that. And the next resolution is the charitable donations. Oh boy. And again, it's notice hereby given to the resolution to be laid before the 16th annual general meeting of the Hebridean Housing Partnership Limited on Thursday the 1st of September. It is resolved that £5,000 of surplus at the 31st of March 2022 be split into 5 sums of £1,000 and donated between 5 local charitable organisations. Marie Curie Nursing Assistance. Now this is one, I'll let you read that yourself. Bethesda Hospice, Action for Children and Western Isles Community Care Forum. Have we got approval for that? Yep, happy for that. That's lovely, thank you very much. So, all very smooth. So, we're now moving on to closing remarks, which is going to ban back to the Chief Executive to closing remarks. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chair. And we're looking forward to hearing our speakers after this, so I'm not going to keep you for too long. I want to say thank you and add my thanks to a number of people, to the Chair's thanks earlier on. And one of the things that you're probably not aware, but our team have been working on helping people with fuel vouchers throughout the year. And I was asking them yesterday what the total amount they managed to secure, and since January they've managed to secure £42,000 worth of fuel vouchers to help our tenants. So I want to thank the team for doing that, for making sure that they knew that the fund was there, and that they actually did something about accessing it for tenants. And I know that's made a big difference to a number of people's lives. There is another fund just announced, I think it was Monday this week, £2 million, and they've already got a number of projects that they're going to put in, again, to support people with the energy issues. And on that, we have 4 tenant events taking place this month. It is now September, so this month and next month throughout the islands, and the focus is going to be on energy advice. So if I can encourage you to encourage people to come along, and whilst it's primarily for tenants, if there is somebody that you feel might benefit, then just invite them to come along, and hopefully we'll be able to do something to help. So if I can also thank staff as a whole for continuing to deliver the service throughout the year. It's not been easy, and there have been very challenging and difficult situations that you've had to face, and you've done that, and you've done it well. And I think you've also, in situations, gone above and beyond what you've been asked to do and what our customers have asked us to do as well. So thank you very much for that. To our board members, thank you for being there, for being supportive of the staff and the organisation, but also for challenging us when it's appropriate to challenge us, and asking the questions that make us go away and think about things a wee bit more deeper. Tenants, you'll always see the number about arrears, but if you turn that the other way around, and I know I've said it before, but it is worth saying again, the vast majority of our tenants make sure they pay their rent on time, and that's what enables us to deliver the service the way we do. So thank you to our tenants who pay on time, abide by their tenancy agreement, and by doing that contribute positively to the communities that we live in. We work with a number of partners locally and some nationally as well. And they've helped us to deliver the vision for the Outer Hebrides over the last 12 months, and we hope that will continue. Our contractors, they have faced lots of challenges, getting the materials they need, getting the workforce, and they've delivered for us. And to our repairs contractor, thanks again for all the work that you do to making sure that the emergency services that are needed for our tenants are dealt with. Scottish Government, can't forget the Scottish Government, who have provided a vast amount of money to the islands to enable new build to go ahead. But also, on the human side, the team that we deal with in Inverness are incredibly supportive of what's happening here. They do not put obstacles in our way. They will do what they can to help us here. So a particular thanks to the team in Inverness. And one final thought before Claire and Rachel come to speak to us. They're coming to speak to us from Autism Elanshire, and I think it'd be really interesting to hear what's happening there and how we can help the work that they are doing. During any crisis, and I think we saw it in lockdown, we seem to become the best version of ourselves. Things that were maybe, I can't be bothered doing that, we're willing to do. We go the extra mile, we look out for people. Things that maybe we would have avoided doing before, we're willing to do. And I don't know why it is that when we get out of the crisis, we suddenly stop being that best version of ourselves. And one word that I've grown to dislike is innovation. I don't know about the rest of you, but it seems to come up everywhere. And I think not everything needs to be new and shiny and better. Sometimes what we used to do in the past is actually what we need to do now. And one of the things in the past that we know worked really well was when people looked out for each other and our communities. And even if we all agreed that we would look out for one neighbour, that means everybody would be looked out for. It's a simple thing. So we don't always need new, bright, shiny ideas. Sometimes we can take what was there in the past and polish them up and use them, because we're going to need it in the next, particularly coming up to the winter months, to look out for each other. So one final thought then is that we need to continue, and this is agencies and ourselves, we need to continue to speak up for people who cannot speak for themselves and to fight for the rights of the people who need them. So sometimes it's about speaking to the person beside us, but sometimes we need to come together as a group of islands and actually make our voice heard in the hope that the people will listen and then actually do something about it. So I'd now like to ask Claire and Rachel to come up and speak to us. Okay.
Hi, can everyone hear me? Yeah, I apologise for my Birmingham accent in advance, but Rachel's got a normal accent. Thank you for giving me this opportunity just to tell everybody a little bit about ourselves. I'm not very good at this kind of thing, so again, I apologise in advance. The group that we have, Autism Heal and Share, has been around for quite a few years. I've been involved with it for about 5 years now, and you?
I think four.
About 4, yeah. It's a parent-led group, so we're not experts other than the fact that we're all living with a child with either autism or additional needs. We support each other, which is the main thing, and we do have a laugh because, you know, you can't just have doom and gloom all the time, so it's nice that we can all get together and sort of support each other. Like I say, it's been going probably about 10 years, but about 5 years ago, Donna, who was going to be here, she stepped in as chair, and she's really good. She's really proactive, and she gets things done and gives us jobs to do, and we all do it. I'm vice chair, but I'm not really that good at it, to be honest, other than the fact that I get these sort of jobs, which is fine. I can live with that. We try to get the kids together because our kids, they may not be have social, sort of, you know, the time that we socially interact, they don't do that. So it's nice for our kids to be in environments where they've got friends almost, because a lot of them struggle to make friends. And as they're growing up, at least they've got familiar faces. I know HHP have donated before to us, and that kind of money goes to buy equipment so that we can do play days, if you like, so everyone come together. And we've got a container that we've got at Inges, and we keep all our stuff in there, and we get it out with our tow van, and we go to Sandwich and we lay it all out, and hopefully everybody has a sort of a good time. We support each other. We have a monthly drop-in, and we can just roll up, and everyone can have a moan. And some people, we have tears. We've all had tears before. Yeah. And we've just have a cup of tea and sort of try and make it a little bit easier. It's never going to be right. And we're always battling. Like at the minute, we're having trouble with the schools. The kids aren't coping very well, and Sandwich's closed, and you know it's really hard. And a lot of the parents are really fit. Myself, I'm having difficulties with my kid at the Nicholson. It's the complete change. So at least we've got sort of each other and something in common with each other. At the moment, Rachel and myself, we're trying to set up a sort of a teenager thing, because the kids are sort of moving up. So whereas we've got the play equipment and everything, but they're getting a bit old for that now. So Rachel, you want to tell a bit about what we're doing there?
Well, what we're trying to do is basically, there's a gap. We've got facilities, equipment, great things for the younger ones. I know that there's other like volunteer groups and things like that catering for adults, which is fantastic. But at the moment, there is a big gap in support, equipment, things like that for the teenagers. So we're trying to set up sort of sensory crafting, things like that, so they have some kind of involvement, because even though they may have autism or ADHD or, you know, Asperger's or any of the other ones of the spectrum, they need to be teenagers. And we're just trying our best to do that. We're using Sandwich Hall. It's not always the greatest. It's like a loud hall environments. Some kids, they do get overstimulated with noise and things like this, but we're trying our best. So I think really what we as a group could maybe get accomplished with the likes of yourself, HHPs, maybe, is get more notice out there, you know, that what we're trying to provide, and maybe if there is some kind of help, or even if you've come up with some suggestions yourselves, or if you know someone that could maybe be directed to the likes of ourselves that is probably struggling or doesn't know what to do, they can come and talk to us, because I didn't really know about the autism group until it was Claire, who was my old sort of neighbour down the road, had told me. So even word of mouth, and I know that could help. Thanks.
Another thing that we're trying to do for the older adults, young adults, and for the likes of our sort of older teenagers and stuff, I've always wanted like a cafe, you know, like on the mainland where they've got, everybody's got that has a disability can work in the cafe, and it's a good environment, and you know that's what I'd like. And we're trying to do something like that. We're sort of at the moment setting up a
finding the right place to do it in.
Yeah, we've looked at pointers and things like that, so that we can, a similar thing that like was there before, but ran by us as a group, because obviously the council don't want to get involved in that kind of thing, so we're happy to do it. So we're just sort of on the early stages of getting something like that. We did a pop-up cafe as a practice, and that went really well. So we're going to move on with that. So they are our sort of plans for the future. We're looking after, we've sort of nailed it on the younger ones. We've got all the stuff there. We're working on the teenagers, and then we're this cafe thing, which we're really hoping that we can sort of pull out the bag, so that everybody has got something moving up the ages, because that's what's going to happen. And there's not enough stuff. There's nothing for the kids, the young adults, and the older adults even. So, and it's sort of a little community in a way, because you've only got each other. So we want to be working on something like that for the future. But in the meantime, we'll just support each other. Hopefully, you lot will look out for us more if you see us trying to raise awareness, which is a big thing. And we'll just keep looking after the kids. But thank you so much for allowing us to rattle on for a little while. And if there's anything that you did want to ask, or any ideas, we'll be able to be floating around. So just grab us then, and that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Donna and Rachel. So it's always good to hear about other organisations that are in the community that we might not be aware of, because we don't need them or use them ourselves. So we'll certainly do what we can to support you in publicising the work that you're doing.